Gardening versus the wild. I so much wanted to talk around this topic. Since a few months, actually. I so much wanted to talk around this topic since a few months. So I've been looking, I don't know, recently it has started to happen with me. I've always connected with plants and trees a lot, always. And yeah, but recently, like, I always had a kind of an attraction towards forest, towards the wild. And but recently, the more and more I look towards garden or I look towards plants, I get this feeling of stagnant energy. There is this feeling of stagnant energy around gardens or around plants. You know, they are kept into a pot, right? It's like it's more or less like how you when you how you sterilize the eggs in labs. You keep it outside, you give it the environment of an embryo in a lab, right? So, like, you infuse in there are these kind of things that are going on right in the world. So you try to give that egg that uh you know the environment of a womb outside in a lab, right? You try to create it for that egg, but of course it is never as promising as a god's womb, as promising as how God created a real natural womb, right? And the more and more I look at these plants, the more and more I start to feel a stagnant energy around them. Like they're meant to be uprooted. They're meant to be uprooted from the plants, from the pots, and they're meant to be dug deep into the earth. And right now, completely, that's exactly, the call of, that's exactly right now the call of the universe, call of God, call of Shiva, whatever you want to say it. That's exactly what we are being called into. You know, they try to create a distance with the sky, they try to create a distance with the earth, you know, with the coming up of plastic croaks, the croaks that are actually made up of plastic. And though they looked very cute and they look very nice, but they have actually or inducing rubbers into our slippers or into our footwears. They actually create a distance between you and the earth. Already they've done these floorings, these tilings, you know and on top of that, we started to wear uh, you know rubber slippers. And on top of that, we are living in multi-story buildings. So we've gone so far away from the earth in the name of modernization, high-rise buildings. That's very modern, right? But is it? Is modernity really moving towards God, or modernity is moving towards Satan? We really need to ask that. So, yeah, I have always wanted to discuss with you about gardening, and there's a yeah, I feel the stagnant energy around these plants. They are in a pot. They are given that artificial earth experience for them to grow. And plants actually, if you have really seen how plants grow, many plants, what do they do? They You will see that after some time there is a upward movement in plants. Like, they grow vertically, right? They're growing vertically above the earth, right? and after some time they reach their maximum. So what does a gardener do? What does a mali do? A mali, gardener is translated in Mali in Hindi, right? What does a gardener do? What does a mali do? So he would come and he would chop off some branches, he would chop off some leaves, and it needs care, right? It needs a human intervention, right? A garden needs a human intervention. So because of course it was very artificially created by a man. So you chop off that, you chop off this, and it again goes into a loop of growing again, and then again it reaches maximum in within the environment that has been given. It reaches a maximum, and then again it is chopped off, goes again into a loop. you know and it is such a stagnant energy. It is such a stagnant energy. Though when it is chopped off, it is given some room to move, and movement is very necessary for the life energies of the plant. But then when it again reaches maximum, I can feel the stagnant energy around it, and it is just meant to be uprooted. you know and it is, when it reaches the maximum, it is actually meant to be uprooted and put into the earth. When it reaches certain level of maximum, above the earth, and this happens in nurseries also, right? Nurseries, what do they do? They create artificial environment, in a plastic pot or whatever. And when they really put that into the earth, you know it starts, now when you really put it into the earth, it starts to grow, below the earth. The roots, now they try to grow, and they try to grow below into the earth. If you have seen it, I mean, nobody can see it, but if you felt it, the growth really happens now below the earth. you know and then the plant goes through a pause. Okay, it grows its roots below into the earth, and now after that time, now it flourishes fully. I don't know all these stories that I'm telling you, and I'm trying to come back. I'm trying to come back to the point. I'm really trying to come back to the point. The point I'm really trying to make here is that we are right now into the masculine awakening. We are right now into the masculine awakening. We are, collectively awakening our masculine sides. We are being really uprooted, from the nurseries, and then put into the earth. We are not meant to rise vertically above the earth. Right now, we are meant to rise very silently down below the earth. The ascension right now is happening beneath the ground. Right now, ascension is really happening within you. Within you, it's a foundation, you know. And when really a balance will be created of the feminine and the masculine, you know, then a little bit of masculine, the foundation is created. It's only then the feminine flourishes, the creativity flourishes, the Devi flourishes, you know. So plant then in the third phase, plant then really grows out from the earth. If you've seen, yeah. And gardens usually have, I mean, they're very beautiful energies. Gardens are also very beautiful energy, but they always give me that sense of stagnant energy, or that energy of a loop, you know. And they're really doing that. They're really cutting down the forest, building malls and stupid structures, high rise structures over it. And then they're planting some artificial plants around it, which do not even belong to the land. They just look pretty. Have you seen gardens? They just look pretty. Most of them are not even raw and wild. Like those plants that don't even belong to the land. They just grown just because they might be nice to the eyes, but I don't think what's so nice to the eyes. I mean, I've never found wild is something else. Wild is something else. Forests have always given me that wild feminine energy because they are you know they are full blown feminine energies. The forest because they are grown. They are rooted into the earth. They're masculine. The foundation is so done, and it holds everything together. And the feminine rises. It just rises, just wild, and its energy is full blown. It's full. It's complete. It's whole. you know Whereas you go into the gardens, it's just pretty, and there's loopy energy, and sometimes there's a stagnant energy. These plants, they're wanting to be so much uprooted from that alone space, and meant to be dug into the earth, connected to all. These plants are sitting in these separate pots. I mean, they're pretty, they're beautiful, they somehow survive, in that spaces. But when it comes to, you know, picking up wholeness, they're meant to be uprooted, they're meant to be connected to the earth. They're meant to be connected to Mother Earth. They're meant to be pushed into the collective. And that's where they grow. And this is really the time for it. Humanity has come to a point, you know, where it needs to evolve. It has come to that stagnant, loopy energy. We are meant to connect back to the earth again. And we really need to bring back our Um, if you know about Britishers, they have done that. They have cut the trees, they've cut the forests, and they have put these eucalyptus plants. I was just reading about this somewhere that eucalyptus plants are not really native to the land, to the hills especially. So mainly in these countries, in these hilly areas, they did that. They planted it, at a particular distance, very particular about distance between the trees, and it just looked nice and clean. Even gardens, they look very nice and clean, but wild is something else. And you cannot enter the wild. It's the forest, it's the wild that decides if you enter it or not. Trust me. Gardens are nice and clean, it's so welcoming, anyone can come in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But wild, not everyone can get into a wild forest. Trust me, it's the energy of the forest that decides if you will be allowed into it or not. And if you're really something toxic masculinity or something like that, and you still gets into it, I mean, if you even if you enter it, it'll be difficult for you to exit out of it. you know, it's like that because she's a full blown feminine energy. Wilderness, forest of full blown feminine energies, and it's difficult to defeat her. It's difficult to take over her. It's difficult to tame her. It's difficult to tame the wild. You cannot. You can tame the gardens, of course. You cannot tame her. And it's really time to bring back that full blown feminine energy into our lives. And for that, a little bit of foundation needs to be set. And for that, we're being called back to the earth. We're being called back to our roots. Back to our roots. Yeah. It's time for us to go and grow beneath the earth. It's not time to, flourish out into the space or above the earth. It's time to actually grow beneath the earth, to set up our foundations. I mean, I never thought in this ascension process, like a few months back, I also never thought that still I had some really deep shadows out there, to be cleared out. And yes, some deep shadows where it was so difficult for me to even see, you know, some stubborn shadows, some stubborn shadow work. You will find that it is getting cleared and your foundations are getting more and more fixated, you getting more and more stable into the ground, into the earth. I just so much wanted to talk around this concept of wild and gardening, wild versus the gardens. I never liked those pretty gardens. But in cities, you have no other options. Especially in metropolitan cities, you have no other options. Thank you for watching the video.